Part 1. Terms and Conditions of Me. My name is Avery Collins. I'm 29. I write product roadmaps for a living and keep my promises as a habit. 6 months ago, my boyfriend Ben Hart moved into my apartment. We'd been together for 18 months, and I believed we were solid, quietly solid, the kind that doesn't perform for anyone else. Last Thursday, he asked me to meet him at an Italian restaurant that pours water like it's rare wine. He said he wanted to talk about something important. I assumed it might be a promotion or maybe a trip. I wore the navy dress he likes because it makes me look focused. When I arrived, he was already seated, posture straight, practicing responsibility. Between the candles sat a leather folder, neat, confident, deliberate. We ordered. He folded his hands and slid the folder toward me. Before we moved forward, he said we should align expectations. Inside was a laminated page. The title read, Requirements for Marriage, Areas Where Avery Needs Improvement. I stared at the gloss as if the plastic might soften the meaning. It didn't. The list followed. Increase income by at least 40% within 12 months. Current salary insufficient for lifestyle goals. Physical fitness. Join CrossFit specifically. Lose 15 pounds. Develop visible abs. Vehicle. Trade in my Honda Civic for a marriage-appropriate car. BMW, Audi, or Mercedes only. Wardrobe. Full overhaul required, with an attached Pinterest board of approved styles. Social circle. Phase out friends Cora, Micah, and Jonah due to negative influence. Hobbies. Gaming limited to 2 hours per week. Golf lessons mandatory for networking. Family boundaries. Reduce visits to my mother to holidays only. Career path. Commit to an MBA by next fall. Schools pre-selected. Housing. Purchase a home in a specified neighborhood within 2 years. Minimum 3D 500 square feet. Social media. Delete photos with exes, update relationship status, and feature Ben as profile picture. He sipped his drink like he'd solved a global issue. When I finished reading, he leaned in and said he'd thought carefully about this. These were his non-negotiables. He needed to know I was serious about our future. The lamination reflected his face back at him, hard, clean, mistaken for certainty. I told him the list was helpful. His shoulders relaxed. He said he knew I'd understand. I opened my phone, typed a single note, find a new boyfriend, and showed him. I left cash for my drink and stood up. The fork tapped the plate. He froze, mid-thought. He said I was misunderstanding his intentions. I told him calmly that I was reading exactly what he wrote. Outside, the night felt decisive. At home, I opened the closet and took down the stacked luggage he'd called an investment. I packed carefully. Folded shirts, the unused watch winder, the golf shoes for lessons I never agreed to. His grooming kit went on top, including the lip balm we once argued about. He said pain meant progress. I texted the landlord, explained we were finished, and asked about changing the locks. He agreed. I labeled the boxes, Ben, pick up by Sunday, and placed them in the mailroom. The super nodded like I'd returned something overdue. My phone filled with missed calls and voicemails. Ben, his father Richard, someone named Tara, and a message from my manager asking if I needed time off. I poured water and reread the laminated list. It looked like a contract no court would enforce, but plenty of egos would. Somewhere between cutting off my friends and limiting my mother, I understood the truth. He wasn't trying to improve me. He was trying to replace me with someone easier to manage. Friday morning, the waiter from the restaurant messaged me. Ben had stayed for an hour, telling nearby tables I'd come back once I realized how smart he'd been. I laughed into my coffee. A text from Ben followed, calling the list aspirational and asking to talk. I replied that my decision was final and his boxes were downstairs. He called anyway, leaving a voicemail about optimization, high-functioning couples, and how his father could fix my salary. He told me not to be prideful. That word didn't land. At work, I placed the laminated page beside my keyboard and emailed myself with the subject line, Terms and Conditions of Me. Inside was one line, I am not a project plan. I left through the side exit that evening and checked the lobby camera before going home. In the mailroom, someone had neatly arranged Ben's boxes with a note, Sunday. No exceptions. I showered, put on the soft socks my mother buys, and invited my friends over. They arrived with pizza and jokes. We sat on the floor. When they saw the laminated sheet, the reactions ranged from disbelief to dry humor. I put it back in the folder. Evidence has a way of disappearing if you don't file it. Later, my mother called to check on me. I told her what happened, She said she raised me to recognize deals that cost too much. We said goodnight. The apartment felt calmer. I stored the folder in a box labeled Documents and caught my reflection, steady, finished editing herself. Near midnight, Ben sent one last text saying I'd regret this and no one else would tolerate me. I replied that sounded like good company. Then I slept. Part 2, the correction plan. Saturday morning, light filled the kitchen. I made coffee and opened my laptop to an email from Richard Hart. Subject, business proposal. He acknowledged emotions had run high and said Ben's intentions were good, if poorly handled. He offered a solution, an opening at his firm with the exact salary increase Ben wanted, contingent on reconciliation and counseling. Ben was copied. I forwarded the message to myself and labeled it Documentation, Family Expansion Pack. At 11:42 a.m., the buzzer sounded. Through the peephole, I saw Ben standing beside his mother, Helen, pearls in place, and Tara holding a folder she looked uncomfortable carrying. They were carrying boxes, but not the ones I packed. New boxes. I opened the door just enough to see the hallway. "The mail room is downstairs," I said. Ben smiled, the kind that stops short of the eyes. "We just want to talk." "We," I repeated. Helen stepped forward. "Sweetheart, this is getting out of control. Ben is only trying to strengthen your relationship. Women want a man with a plan." I said I preferred a man with respect. Ben exhaled sharply and said I was being dramatic. Tara opened the folder. Inside was a color-coded document titled Avery's Revised Potential Growth Plan. CrossFit was highlighted in neon orange under family boundaries, and someone had added the note Mother, toxic attachment. I looked up slowly. "You held a meeting," Ben corrected me. "A therapeutic intervention. We want to help you understand." I told him to stop saying we. My voice surprised me. Calm, controlled, precise. No one asked for a committee. Helen clutched her pearls. "He's doing this because he loves you. Then he should try listening instead of laminating," I said. The fridge hummed. Tara murmured something about leaving, but Ben raised his hand. "Fine," he said, suddenly cold. "When you're 40 and alone, don't blame me." I told him I'd be busy doing Pilates and closed the door. The click was small and final. Sunday afternoon brought a follow-up call from my mother. Her voice was careful. She needed me to explain something. Explain what? Ben and a Dr. Whitman were in her living room. I almost dropped my mug. They said it was an emergency family therapy session. He hired the doctor. She asked if she should offer tea. I told her to lock the door and say the emergency was their judgment. Later, she called back laughing. The therapist left, said the situation was inappropriate. Ben told her I was the reason I lacked ambition. She told him ambition without empathy leads to a lonely marriage. He didn't respond well. I told her I owed her dinner. Monday morning at work, my manager Carla stopped by. She said I had a visitor downstairs. Brown hair, arrogant posture, strong PowerPoint energy. Security was already involved. He'd brought a laptop labeled Avery's Transformation Plan. I watched the security feed, Ben presenting a slide titled Embracing Constructive Criticism, The Path to Long-Term Partnership. Security escorted him out mid-sentence. I saved the screenshot. Documentation number 3. By Wednesday, his persistence turned into emails titled Next Steps, Healing Journey, and Reconciliation Sprint. I didn't reply. Thursday night, another email arrived from Richard Hart. Subject, Business Plus Personal Follow-Up. He urged me to reconsider, said compromise defines marriage, said I had potential, and Ben only wanted me to reach it. Potential again, the professional version of not enough. I stared at the word, then closed my laptop and walked to the all-night store for cereal I didn't need and air I did. Friday morning, another knock. This time Tara and 3 hired movers. She said they were there for Ben's things. I said his things were gone. She handed me a printed list that included my television, gaming console, coffee maker, and my grandmother's china, marked basically ours since I used it more. I suggested security review it. Downstairs, the super took one look and said it was theft. The movers froze. One whispered that she'd been told I was abusive, but I seemed normal. I said take only what belonged to Ben. They did. When Tara argued emotional compensation, even she didn't sound sure. They left with nothing. I went upstairs and added a note to Ben's old list. Entitlement, item 11. Saturday evening, another short message arrived. He said I'd regret this, that I was wasting potential, that he was offering structure and I was choosing chaos. I replied that I was choosing myself, and structure isn't safety when it's a cage. Then I muted his number. Sunday was the pickup deadline. He didn't show. Instead, he posted on LinkedIn, Benjamin Hart, life coach and relationship consultant, article, When You Outgrow Your Partner, A Guide to Upward Dating. He didn't name me, but the meaning was obvious. Within hours, screenshots spread. The comments weren't kind. He deleted the post within 2 hours, but the screenshot stayed. That night, his sister Megan texted. She said he was spiraling and admitted he'd done this before. She told me to keep receipts. I said receipts were my new love language. She replied with a heart. Later, as rain tapped the window, I made tea and looked at the empty space where his golf clubs once stood. I looked tired, but lighter. Freedom doesn't announce itself. Sometimes it exhales. He tried to project manage love. I deleted the shared calendar. Part 3. Outgrowing me arrived quietly, but my inbox didn't. A new subject line read, Formal Complaint, Illegal Eviction and Theft. Ben had filed a report with the building claiming unlawful removal of property and spiritual tenancy. Under duration of residency, he wrote 18 months physical, 12 months emotional. Even the building manager, Deb, laughed when she called. In the section for desired resolution, he requested reinstatement of shared domestic arrangement or compensation for emotional equity. Deb asked if I wanted it framed. I said yes. Evidence files were expanding. Wednesday, at my regular gym, not CrossFit, a shadow crossed the mirror. I looked up to see Richard Hart in a new tracksuit, tag still attached. He greeted me loudly, pretending surprise. I told him he'd been parked outside for an hour. His smile faltered. Nonsense, he said. Coincidence. He cornered me near the water fountain like a salesman offering salvation. He said his son came from a good family, that they raised their children to expect excellence. Maybe Ben's delivery was blunt, but his intentions were good. I told him Ben had evaluated me like a mid-year performance review. Richard nodded as if that were a compliment. He said Ben saw potential. I corrected him. Ben saw a project. Richard leaned in and offered to buy me the BMW himself, calling it an early wedding gift. I laughed hard enough to grab the treadmill rail. I told him I didn't want a BMW, that I liked my Civic. His face tightened. He said I was throwing away my future over pride. I said it was over peace. He muttered something about ungrateful modern women and stormed out, leaving his expensive gym bag behind. A janitor later returned it to me. Inside were unopened pre-workout supplements and a receipt for an image consultation totaling $800. The pattern was clear. The entire family treated people like projects. Friday night was quiet until my coworker Mika called, barely holding back laughter. She told me to check my Hinge profile. I said I didn't have one. She replied that I did now and sent a screenshot. My photos, professional headshot, beach trip, even one with my dog, were on a dating profile describing me as a successful professional seeking an ambitious man to build an empire, MBA candidate, CrossFit enthusiast, future homeowner, no tolerance for mediocrity. It was me, rewritten by Ben. Over the next hour, things escalated. 3 different women showed up at my apartment that weekend, all confused and polite. The first, Janet A., arrived Saturday evening in a red dress with flowers. She thought we had a date. It took minutes to unravel. Ben had been catfishing as me, using my photos and arranging what he framed as ambitious partnership interviews. She showed me the messages, days of flattery packed with words like synergy and power couple. I invited her in, poured wine, and explained everything. She listened, then laughed until she cried. She said I needed a lawyer. I told her I already had one. Before leaving, she said that once he was fully out of my life, I should call her. She left her number on a napkin. I pinned it to the fridge. Sunday morning brought another envelope in my mailbox. No return address. Inside was an invoice, itemized in unsettling detail. Benjamin Hart billed me for relationship coaching, life improvement consulting, personal styling, career counseling, nutrition guidance, social circle optimization, interior design input, and future planning. 18 months of services, total due $8,743. Payment required within 30 days or legal action would follow. I called my mother before finishing the page. She laughed and told me to send her a copy so she could frame it. That evening, she left Ben a voicemail informing him that if he continued sending nonsense, she'd start billing him for her time at $300 an hour, 4-hour minimum. I nearly choked on my tea. That night, I received a message from Megan Hart, Ben's sister. She apologized and admitted he'd done this before. Different woman, same pattern. Lists, control, fake profiles. The previous woman eventually obtained a restraining order. Megan sent screenshots of old messages, the same bullet points, the same laminated requirements, only the names were different. I felt a brief, quiet pity. Control was the only language he knew. Still, I thanked her and told her I would continue documenting everything. She warned me that he escalates before he implodes and told me to stay safe. I filed the message as evidence and exhaled as thunder rolled outside. Monday morning, my lawyer Kara called, half amused, half amazed. She said I was the most interesting case she'd had all month and confirmed they were sending a cease and desist letter that day. I asked her what to do with the invoice. She laughed and called it art. After the call, I sat by the window watching clouds smear across the skyline. For the first time in weeks, my apartment felt fully mine. No lists, no rules, no evaluations. Just quiet. My phone buzzed once more. Ben messaged that people don't leave him, they learn from him. I replied that I'd graduated and blocked his number. That night, my friends came over for pizza again. We toasted to emotional equity and spiritual tenancy. We laughed harder than necessary. By Tuesday, the cease and desist had been sent. I assumed paperwork would end what reason could not. I was wrong. Wednesday morning, Kara called again, laughing in disbelief. Ben's lawyer had sent a counter letter claiming breach of implied self-improvement contract, demanding compensation for emotional labor, lost future lifestyle, and a public apology. He was essentially suing me for not upgrading. Kara said he was even requesting restitution for the BMW that never existed. We laughed until we couldn't breathe. She said she'd never seen anyone attempt to monetize delusion. 2 days later, Ben shifted online. During lunch, I opened TikTok and saw him using a voice filter, telling a story about dating down over soft piano music. He said he tried to help someone become their best self, but some women confuse accountability with control. In follow-up clips, he listed red flags that mirrored his complaints. The comments dismantled him. People referenced PowerPoints, laminated lists, CrossFit specifics. Someone posted a meme of a laminator labeled his emotional support appliance. By the third video, viewers identified him. The series disappeared within hours, but not before thousands had shared it. A week later, just as things felt calm again, my cousin Lucas called. "You're not gonna like this," Lucas said. I asked what happened. He told me my ex had RSVP'd to his wedding. I asked what he meant. Ben had filled out the online form, selected the salmon entree, and added, "Can't wait to celebrate our love story." My heart jumped. I told Lucas to remove him immediately. He said he already had, but Ben contacted the venue directly and claimed he was reclaiming closure. The wedding day arrived, bright and polished, all pastel suits and easy laughter. I had almost forgotten to feel nervous until I saw Ben near the champagne bar, hair slicked back, pale suit pressed, holding a gift bag, and wearing a white shirt that felt symbolic and unaware. He wasn't invited, and he wasn't welcome. Yet there he stood. Camila froze mid-photo and asked if that was him. I confirmed it was. Before security reached him, Ben had already started speaking to guests, saying we were supposed to be next and calling it poetic. Then the DJ announced speeches, and Ben walked to the microphone. He tapped it and said, "Love is about pushing each other to grow." That's where it ended. My cousin Marco unplugged the mic. The room went quiet, then filled with whispers. Lucas rushed over and told security to remove him. Ben resisted, shouting that this should have been our day. Camila, calm and unimpressed, told him not in that suit. As he was escorted out, he yelled that I would regret losing him. I replied evenly that I regretted buying him a laminator. Laughter moved through the room, and the ceremony continued. 3 days later, the restraining order was approved. The judge reviewed the documents, the laminated list, the fake profiles, the invoice sent to my mother, and sighed with visible exhaustion. He told me I'd been more than patient. Then he addressed Ben and said billing someone for dating is not normal behavior. The order was granted. 500 feet, 2 years, no contact. Ben tried to argue that his intentions were being misrepresented. The judge didn't look up. He said the intentions were laminated and dismissed the case. A week later, Richard Hart called. His voice was subdued. He said he hadn't known the full situation and believed we were still seeing each other. I told him it was fine and that he owed me nothing. He apologized and said they hadn't raised Ben to behave that way. I believed him. Control doesn't always come from cruelty. Sometimes it's simply the only structure someone knows. Not long after, Megan texted again to say Ben was finally in real therapy, encouraged by his parents, and that it might actually help. I replied that I hoped one day he'd make a list that started with himself. Weeks passed, then months. I stopped expecting surprises. Janet, the woman from the fake date, joined us one night at trivia with Cora and Micah, smiling and joking that she heard I was still list-free. I said barely, but thriving. She became part of the group, sharp, funny, unbeatable at Mario Kart. When my mother met her, she whispered that Janet had common sense. We laughed harder than necessary. My Civic is still in the same parking spot, paid off and reliable. Jonah gave me a new sticker that reads mediocre and proud. At my boxing gym, my trainer taped Ben's laminated list to the wall with a large red X through it. They call it the Motivation Corner. When new members ask about it, I tell them it's a reminder that self-worth isn't a checklist. Recently, Kara emailed the final court confirmation and added a quote at the bottom. Love is not a performance review. I keep it on my fridge, next to Janet's napkin with her number. When people ask how it ended, I tell them the truth. He tried to manage me like a project, and I closed the contract. Sometimes, when the light hits the kitchen table just right, I can still see the faint outline of that laminated list. Not as a warning, but as proof. Proof that I chose peace. He wanted perfection. I wanted partnership. Peace turned out to be the only non-negotiable that mattered.